Hey everybody, Joe Lee here with another video update on my epic journey to get out of $200,000 in debt. I just want to dive straight in because as I share more and more of my stories and my adventure and my businesses, I just want to share where it all started. And for me, that starts with setting myself up for success. And I left off at the end of yesterday's video, I said something about always setting yourself up for success. So I thought this is the perfect video to do this in before I start sharing numbers about my business, before I start sharing every single little detail and process of how I took $4,000 and turned it into a $500,000 business. I thought about it. This is where everything started, and it's the mentality of an action of always setting yourself up for success. And I want to share how I do it and why it works for me every single time. So I just want to start with or share a little story from way back when, back in high school days, because I think this is where it all started, and this will show exactly why my mentality is always like this. And you know a little bit of my background of when I start sharing numbers and my actions, you'll know exactly where it's coming from, where the foundation is. So back in high school, well, we can wind back a little more to middle school. Middle school, my family was well off. We weren't the richest of rich, but we had a lot of money. And I was getting like $40 a week in allowance as a sixth grader, which is crazy because lunch was less than $3 a day. So that's less than 15 bucks a week. So I had a lot of spending money, pretty much could buy whatever I wanted. But fast forwarding back into high school, sophomore in high school was when everything came crashing down for my family. Boy, was it bad. When the economy crashed, my parents really took a hit in their businesses, and when they did that, it got to a point where they were struggling to even give me money for lunch at school. They couldn't give me lunch money, and going from $40 a week to not having lunch money was really bad. But I also saw what it meant to really struggle as a family and be financially burdened. And that's when I had a decision. And in my head, in my memory, that's where I had two roads that I could take. One was to be depressed. One was to get angry at my life, get angry at my parents, get angry at my situation, and just do nothing about it. Or the second one was just do something about it. This is the cards you were dealt. Just do something about it. And I decided, heck yeah, I ain't gonna just sit on my butt doing nothing. I'm gonna do something about my life. It's my life. Nobody else cares about it. So I'm gonna make sure I do something with it. And at that time, I had to assess what my goals were, which is, I think, the very first thing you have to do when you set yourself up for success is, what is your goal? What is success to you? And for me, my success at that time was very small. It was nothing big. It was, I wanted enough money to make, to buy lunch essentially every single day without worrying, and then hopefully have a little money left over so that I could go out with friends, maybe go grab Wendy's or something after school. So that was my goal and what I was going for. And then I had to think, what do I have to do to get there? So the second step of how I set myself up for success every time is to assess the situation, evaluate who you are, what your advantages are, what your disadvantages are, what your strengths and weaknesses are. For me, my strengths were, I had a loving family. I didn't have to worry about going home, and I had a bed, I had a room, I had a place to sleep. I know that's a problem for a lot of people, so for me, I was thankful for that. I knew that. And then I also knew that I was going to a really good high school at that time. It was a magnet school. It was a named high school that you had to test to get into, interview to get in, and in my community, it's a sought-after school where a lot of parents want their kids to go to this school. So I knew I had that going for me. My disadvantages were obviously my financial burdens. I was 16. I really never worked other than for my parents. And then I couldn't drive, so I couldn't go anywhere far. So those were my basic situations, because once you assess the situation, now you could realize, okay, you could figure out how am I going to maneuver through all of this. And for me, at that time, I heard from one of my older sister figure that she went to Korea and made a killing off of teaching English to students. So I knew that wasn't feasible for me to buy a ticket to go to Korea and just start teaching English. I've never been to Korea, although I'm Korean. I was born in New York. But I thought, hey, maybe I could bring that to my community. Maybe I could start tutoring or something like that. So then I got my creative juices flowing, which is where I want to say that's when you set yourself up for success, once you know where you are at, you have to start maneuvering. And the very first step to do that is to be creative, start thinking, put a lot of thought into it, and figure out how to show off your strengths and how to take advantage of your strengths. And for me, that was my high school at that time, and I knew teaching would work for that. So I decided to make a flyer, and I still remember opening up Microsoft Word and opening up clip art and writing my name in giant letters. And then I realized, shoot, nobody really knows who I am. Who cares if it says Joseph Lee on the flyer? Nobody really cares. And that was a very humbling reality where my problems didn't matter to anybody else. And nobody really cared about any of that. And that was the reality of it. And that was so humbling. And that also made me realize, okay, it kind of just set the tone for what reality was. And so I went and thought, what do they want to see? What do my customers, so to speak, want to see when they hire me? Or what's going to draw the eye to the flyer? And for me, it was my high school name. So I erased my name from clip art, and I wrote my high school's name as big as I can fit on the paper. And then in like bold regular text, I put my name and said that I was available for hire. I got a little more creative. I put a lot of passion into this flyer. I put my phone numbers, copied and pasted it vertically so that I could cut little slits so that it could be torn off with my phone number for whoever wanted to take the phone number home. And then I got my creative juices done. I made my initial flyer, and now it came to execute. Follow it up with action, and that is the next step. And it's exactly what I did. I went down to every single store on the main street of my town, and I asked if I could put my flyer up. 70% said no, but hey, that still means 30% said yes, which was a good chunk. So everywhere within walking distance, I went into every store, and I still remember the very first store I went into that said yes. They said I could put it up on the window, and I went to go put it up on the window, and I realized I had no tape. And at that time I was oblivious. I just went and asked them for tape, and they just shook their heads going like, while giving it to me, you need to be better prepared for your situations. And that is when I realized, shoot, it's not just creative juices. When you follow stuff up with action, you always have to be thinking. You have to think 5 steps, 10 steps ahead. Think about all the different possibilities so that you're always prepared in any situation. And that's when I really got my first taste of that and learned that lesson. So I put the flyer up, ran back home, found a roll of tape. I even brought a pair of staplers actually, so that just in case I needed to staple something. Ran back out, went to every single store and asked, and I got to put my flyers on some desks, some bulletin boards, and some windows. And then came the waiting game. And this is when I want to take some time and really just share that once you follow up with action and you do your part, have zero expectation. But have high hopes. Now that might sound a little confusing, so let me try to explain that more clearly. I put up flyers, but if I put up flyers expecting that I was gonna get a job and I didn't get a single call, that would just leave me in a depressed or angry state, and that's just not good for your mental health, and it's just not a good way to think. But have high hopes and realize that you putting up flyers doesn't mean you deserve a job. You just did your job to open up hopefully potential doors. You just set yourself up. That's what I mean by setting yourself up for success. Have zero expectation, but have high hopes. Because when you have high hopes, when an opportunity comes, when that call comes, you know how thankful you are for it, and you know that it is an opportunity, and you pounce on it. And that's exactly what I did. 2 weeks of nothing, and then I got my first call, and I got my first taste in negotiation then of negotiating my rates, and I settled at $15 an hour for 3 hours a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that left me with $45 in cash every single week. And I was ecstatic. I was so happy because I could pay for my lunch. It wasn't a problem. It was working 3 hours after school. That was okay. I could give up that time. I wasn't going to do anything anyways. So that's what I did. And that's what it means to set yourself up for success. And what was crazy was he was my only student for a little bit, for a couple months, and then another door opened up, a bigger door, another call came in, and this family was a little more well off. I got better at my negotiating skills. I had some experience under my belt now, and I got a rate of $20 an hour for 6 hours a week. So I was bringing home $165, I think, a week. I don't know if that math is right, but which is insane for a high school sophomore. That's what was happening. And after the first report card, I put my passion into those two students. And after that first report card from both the students, the moms start talking. When the kids' grades go up, the moms start talking. And I started getting calls left and right. And eventually, by the end of junior year, I was bringing home anywhere from $300 to $500 a week. And that is what it means to set yourself up for success. And that's the attitude I tackle my business with. That is the attitude I tackle life with. So when I see a $200,000 debt, to me, it's not a burden that is just crushing down on me, but for me, it's an obstacle that I am going to slay, that I am going to overcome, because when I overcome it, it's another epic story to tell, and I am never in a defeated mode because it's my life. Nobody cares about my problems. $200,000 is my problem, and I'm gonna find a way out of it because no one else is gonna do it for me. And I think that's what it means to have an attitude. It's a mental game of really setting yourself up for success and always following it up with action. So yeah, I just want to share that, and just hopefully that inspires some of you to really just start evaluating your situation, whatever situation you're in, whether you're in small debt or whether you're in a lot of debt or whether you're not in debt at all. Wherever you want to get to, figure out your goals, whether it be small or big. Figure out exactly where you are in reality and find ways to exemplify your strength and maneuver your way out. And yeah, I hope that made sense. It does in my head, but I just really wanted to share that with you all. So have a wonderful night, day, whenever you're watching this, and I'll be back with another update.